Alrighty, here we are. We are back. We are back. We are back. We are back. And welcome to the show. Hey, everybody, retired in Korea. Today's episode, we're going to talk about dancing grandmas. Yes. The First Lady got some prison time here in Korea. Yeah, that's kind of a new thing that popped up. We're going to talk about a sugar tax. Get a little sugar. Yep, that's what we're talking about. Get a little sugar tax. And also, Jesus returns to Korea but gets in trouble. So, yeah, it is quite the interesting situation that we got here in Korea. Rocking a latte, kind of a vanilla coconut with a light roast. No, actually, this is the dark roast. That's right. I dialed in my dark roast. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat living here in Korea, actually retired here. So, yeah, some people ask about that and are wondering, well, how did you retire in Korea? Well, my wife has Korean ancestry, so we're able to get a visa to pop over here to Korea. And yeah, we've been here over 3 years now. It is gone quick. A lot of different stuff has been going on. For a little bit of background on being retired in Korea, we sold everything in the United States. We sold the house, the car, the guns, the ammo, the guns, the ammo, guns and ammo, and more guns. And we put everything in 2 suitcases and we came to Korea. Yeah, we ended up selling everything and now we're retired in Korea, which is kind of the title is Retired in Korea. Again, the dancing grandmas, the First Lady getting prison time, sugar tax, and Jesus returns to Korea, but he gets in a little bit of trouble. So, yeah, this is going to be some interesting stuff we're going to take a look at. So, with that said, let's jump right into it. We're going to take a look at the dancing grandmas. Yeah, as being that I am almost 60 and I am officially a senior. I am a senior citizen. That still boggles my mind. I just can't grasp that. My mind doesn't say that I'm that old, but sometimes my body does. Well, anyway, it ends up with the dancing grandmas as we see here. It says they thought their best years were behind them, but former school teachers in their 70s made it to the international stage and rewrote their future. Okay, there they are. They're in their 70s. They're dancing with the oldies, I guess. Yeah, 78, 76, and silver-haired. Yeah, these 2 women, they ended up traveling the world, and then apparently what ended up happening is they started doing dancing stuff. And yeah, the dancing grandmothers on Unmi Company. So yeah, in case you're kind of wondering, I mean, it looks like a grandmother type of thing as we see there, premiering in 2011. So this is, yeah, non-professional women in their 70s, and it's just like, wow. It is. I ran across this and I was like, that looks like what a Korean grandmother looks like. It's just kind of, there, there it is. And yeah, so I thought it'd be interesting to go ahead and take a look at the dancing grandmas. And here's a little clip. We don't have any sound because I don't want to get a strike on it. But here are some dancing grandmas. And careful, careful. There's some. It looks like they're having fun. She doesn't look like a grandma. I don't know. Some of these people don't look like grandmas. Yeah, they don't look. Those aren't grandmas. Those can't be grandmas. Those are too young. Those people are too young. We want to see the dancing grandmas. Where are the dancing grandmas? There's the. So we kind of get more of them there. Let's see if we get some in the beginning. Whoever is the cameraman for this just did a horrible job. I think it's kind of like interpretive dance thing. And yeah, that's kind of you'll see that in Korea, kind of doing the old time dancing and stuff. There we go. Dancing grandmas. Yeah. So it was like, yeah, dancing grandmas. It was quite the interesting thing, and excuse me. Yeah, that'll wake you up in the morning. But it's really interesting because as people get older in Korea, a lot of them are faced with poverty. In the United States, we don't think that we think that we have a lot of poverty, but until we go to another country, we don't really kind of grasp how good we have it in the United States. And being that I've traveled a lot of different places around the world, yeah, it is quite the wake up call, and a lot of seniors here in Korea are poor. Hey, we got George here. George says howdy. Good to see you, George. But with that, the reason, it's kind of interesting to see these seniors dancing and getting on stage and doing all that stuff is because Korea actually has a lot of poor seniors. I think it was like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 is under the poverty line. It is quite it's kind of depressing to see. And while you see dancing grandmas on TV or videos or stuff like that, it doesn't show the grandmas women that are in their 70s and 80s that are pushing little hand carts that are collecting cardboard boxes to turn into recycling centers for money because they can't make ends meet. And while Korea does have kind of like a social security system, it didn't start until much later. And a lot of the old people and seniors today, yeah, they don't got a lot saved up. So the national pension system here in Korea is you have to work a minimum of 10 years. But the problem with that, especially with older seniors, is that the senior women or the women didn't work. They worked on like farms, they did agriculture, they stayed home with the families, kind of like a one person or one income family where the husband worked, the wife stayed home and took care of the house and the kids and so on and so forth. So as time progressed, it ends up that, yeah, a lot of them just didn't get the chances like we do in the United States with Social Security. That's something in the United States that we have Social Security. We had it since, I can't remember what the year it was, but I remember the person that got Social Security, the very first one was Ida Mae Fuller. And she paid into it for like 3 months and then, but then again, the life expectancy wasn't expected to be that long. And so now we have Social Security, but the life expectancy went through the roof, and that's kind of problematic. So we also see that here in Korea. But yeah, a lot of poor seniors here in Korea, and that's why usually in older countries or countries that are less developed, Korea is definitely a developed country. But if you look at like Thailand or Philippines or some other Asian countries that haven't progressed as far as Korea, you'll see a big family cohesive unit to where the younger people will take care of their parents. So here in Korea, it's kind of like the order of things is that you have a son, the first son, he gets married. It's kind of the thing that the first son and his wife will take care of their parents when they get old. So that's kind of expected of them. And that was the social norm for quite some time. And it still is today to some degree. It's taken a long time. Some people do it, but some people don't. But if you look at places like the Philippines or Thailand, yeah, it's all about family and taking care of the seniors because a lot of them don't have Social Security, or the amount is so little that they can't make it on their own. So yeah, that's what we got going on there. It's just kind of a excuse me, an interesting little thing that we got going on there. For those of you that kept an ear out on what's going on here in Korea, another thing is that the old president declared martial law, and that went swimmingly. No, it really didn't. It was quite the fiasco. Yeah, he ended up doing the martial law here in Korea, and then it's not that he couldn't declare martial law according to the Constitution. He absolutely could. That was within his right, and that's in the Constitution of Korea. But the problem is that you had a bunch of people, you had the president, the ex-president, declare martial law, and then he told the military and police, don't let politicians in to the Capitol building. Because here's the deal. the Korean constitution has checks and balances. And so if the president declares martial law, the politicians need to come in and they need to vote to continue or vote to veto it. So that's what happens with that. And then it gets to the point of where it's like he ordered the military and the police, don't let him in. So in other words, he went against the Constitution. And then it just kind of went downhill from there. It was a really, really horrible thing. But where's the First Lady come in on all this? Well, that's a whole nother ball of wax because she was involved in insider and stock trading, stock manipulation. There was gifts that she wasn't supposed to get that was, outside of the purview of, the Korean government has rules and laws like the United States. You can only accept gifts if they're within a certain amount or lower. No, she was getting like designer handbags and Gucci and all this stuff. And then, she got involved with the Unification Church here in Korea, which is a big, big thing. And their tentacles are deeply ingrained into the political world, and especially the last president. So anyway, it ends up that the Unification Church was trying to get a bunch of power and get things done that would benefit them. Imagine that, corrupt church. What are the odds? And now all that is gone. The old president, he's actually in jail. He's going to court. They're trying to seek the death penalty. But I'll be very surprised if that happens. I don't think it will because we've had other presidents here in Korea do some pretty awful things. And the fact that nobody lost their life during the martial law attempt, which only lasted for a few hours, I don't think he's going to get the death penalty. They're already stacking charges on some of the other stuff that he's doing or had done, and we'll see how that goes. But the First Lady, she's getting called to the carpet because of the insider stock trading, church bribery, and stuff like that. So let's jump into this. Breaking former First Lady gets 1 year, 8 months for church bribery. And there she is. And it's not going to go well. Kim Kyung-hee attends her trial in December. Sentenced the former First Lady to 1 year and 8 months in prison and a forfeiture of 12.8 million won, which is like $9,000. That's nothing for her. Finding her guilty of receiving bribes from the Unification Church. So the Unification Church bended her ear and bribed her so that she would get her husband because, like all First Ladies, you have influence in the political office, even though she wasn't elected. The court acquitted Kim of her other charges, including alleged participation in the Dutch motor stock price manipulation scheme and illegal obtaining public opinion polling data from a close aide. So kind of like insider trading thing. That whole stock manipulation thing, and that was just, when she didn't get convicted of that, I was like, this is just going to be a slap on the hand. As the First Lady was a defendant, influential figure, blah, 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 the office requires, the defendant may fall short of leading by example, but should never have become a warning example. You did the crime, you do the time. Just because you're the president and but should never have become a warning example. Never. So they didn't want to make an example out of her. I think she would be a great person to make an example of to other First Ladies and other people of saying, hey, don't do that. You gotta bring the hammer down when you see stuff like this. Special counsel recommended a 15 years in prison and a 2 billion won fine. And it ended up being 1 year and 8 months and $9,000. So, it is, it's just all kind of crazy. So there's a lot of stuff going on and the heavy sentence. And then it was like, boom, here she goes. In 2024, Chairman Kwon Oh-soo and 8 others were sentenced to prison terms for mobilizing more than 150 stock trading accounts under the names of 91 individuals. They were found guilty of artificially inflating the company's share price by more than 400% through 101 instances and over 3,000 market transactions. She was kind of involved in that, Yep, somehow she fled. She went under the radar on that one, so it didn't really work out well. So yeah, it ends up she ended up getting a year and 8 months for the bribery scandal, the church bribery scandal, and that was kind of like, yeah, that's all you're getting, slap on the hand. I don't know if she's in jail or she's in house arrest, under house arrest, or if she's going to end up, that's going to count towards time served, or if she's in jail, I have no idea. But considering that they wanted 15 years and it ended up being a year and 8 months and a $9,000 fine, yeah, it went. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. That's that's what it should be. That's what it should be. Be an example. If you do something wrong, you get slapped hard. You get the belt is what it comes down to. So anyway, yeah, that didn't turn out real well. So am I expecting something with the former Korean president and they're seeking the death penalty? No. Especially after seeing this, I don't think. But he planned that martial law thing like a year prior to actually doing it. And yeah, it was just so clear once you see all the information that he really wanted to be a dictator. And when you say, hey, our Constitution says that you can declare martial law, he declared martial law, and then the Constitution says, well, the politicians have to vote to keep it or to veto it and end it, and he didn't let him come into the national building to vote on it, so he was in fact setting himself up to be a dictator. I don't know. Anytime there's been martial law here in Korea, it had never, ever, ever ended amicably, nicely. Nothing good came of it, is what it came down to. Nothing came good of the martial law, ever. So when that happened, we were here, and it was like, oh, this is going to be interesting, because there was military, there was tanks, there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and we were just like, man, what is going on with what's going on here in Korea? Were we a little bit nervous? No, because it was like, it's all around the national building, and I don't know. It was little bit of heightened security, and it was kind of like, I checked some airline tickets, airlines and ferries to go to Japan. So it was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens there. Yeah, quite the interesting thing. George says the legal system there is interesting. Yeah, it is interesting, and the wheels of justice turn slow here in Korea, but they do turn. And with that being said, on a discussion I was having with some people online talking about, well, do you think foreigners get treated better than Koreans? So are they let off the hook, basically? And it's like, no, I don't really think that's the case. And the reason I say that is because you'll have Koreans, they'll get in trouble, they go to court, it takes a long time, the investigations take a long time, and if it's a complicated case, it could go on for years before it even goes to court. Kind of like the Johnny Somali thing, or they stack the cases in such a way that it just draws it out over a long period of time, and that ends up being kind of rough. But with that being said, it's rare that you will get the max penalty for punishments of crime here in Korea. It's just not really a thing. In the United States, we get that more than we do here in Korea. So when they said, "Hey, we're gonna go after the president for the death penalty and so on and so forth," it was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I would I would be very surprised if the death penalty gets hit with that. Let's see. Some other interesting things in the United States. We have taxes, kind of an abrupt change, but we have taxes. Other countries have taxes. And there are some places where they tax alcohol with a high tax, but they call it a sin tax. And so for those of you who don't know, the Bible talks about that if you break the law, it is considered a sin or missing the mark of obeying that law. So in the United States, you have things that are called sin taxes. So things like tobacco, alcohol, maybe certain activities, or sugar and junk food is kind of gets a sin tax, or things like that. So here in Korea, they have a kind of a liberal president here, and as an independent, I'm all for good ideas, left, right, in the middle, as long as they make sense and it's for the good of the people. Korea is now increasingly sweet on a sugar tax. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. I was like, what? Korea doesn't really use a lot of sugar like we do in the United States. So, yeah. Let's get back to George says, is there more or less instances overcharging for crimes? Is there more or less instances of overcharging for crimes in Korea? No, I don't think that's really the case, not from what I've seen in my experience. When you see crimes and things like that, I don't see overcharging, and that's because the way the legal system is organized here in Korea. So, for example, someone commits a crime. Somebody files a report with the police. The police investigate it. They gather the evidence to see if there is indeed a crime has been broken. So that investigation could be, a month, 2 months, could be 4 or 6 months, whatever it is. It could be 4 months, 0 to 4 months, depending on the complexity of the case. And then the police will take it and they'll look at it and they'll say, hey, I think we've got something going on here. So they'll forward that to the prosecutor's office. When the prosecutor gets it and his team or her team, they will investigate it, and that could be another 2 to 4 months, depending on the complexity of the case. If the prosecutor ends up saying, yeah, we do have a case, then what will end up happening is we're going to recommend it to go to court. So you have the evidence from the police, the prosecutors will do more investigation and find more proof and so on and so forth. And if it gets recommended to, the prosecutor recommends it to the court, there's like a 98% chance that they will get a conviction, okay? And it's interesting because do they stack cases? Not unjustly stacking cases, but in the case of Johnny Somali, this is an excellent thing. He's a foreigner. He's still here in Korea. He's a dirtbag, a nuisance streamer, and he's got a number of cases that he's getting tried for, and he's on his own recognizance. He can't leave Korea. He's on legal hold, but he's not supposed to work, and that's kind of draining his pockets. And he's looking at possible prison time. But the thing is that he's had like misdemeanors, some other crimes. He's got deepfake videos that he's going to be, still being charged and has to go to court for. They could have stacked up even more charges because he filmed himself doing things that, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, he should have caught cases for. So sometimes they're stacked correctly, sometimes they're not. And I don't know if it's just, are they going to do every single misdemeanor on him? Probably not, but there are some other crimes that he did. He's drunk and disorderly in his underwear. I'm surprised he didn't catch a case for that. That really amazed me because he videoed and live streamed himself doing that. And yet it didn't become a case. In the United States, boom, you would have been done with that. He would have been nailed. So I would say, now that I think about it, I think it should have been a little bit more. There should have been more cases against Johnny Somali, and unfortunately, there hasn't been. So, overcharging for crimes, no, I really don't see that, especially in that case. And like I said, it ends up that in Korea is not known for giving the max penalties. Okay, they do have a recommendation of minimum, medium and aggravated, punishments and so on and so forth, but rarely do you ever see a max punishment being given. And we see that especially with politicians that we took a look at. So I hope that answers some questions there. But the sugar tax, now the the Korean president, President Lee, he wants to do a sugar tax, and the sugar tax is like, okay, let's see how this goes. He shares survey results indicating that 8 in 10 Koreans back a new levy on high sugar products, stirring debate over potential new measures. I haven't seen that. You know, I asked my wife about it. She's Korean. Imagine that. What are the odds we're living here in Korea? She doesn't know. So again, a survey is depends on who you survey. Different parts of the country. Are they handpicked people that have done the survey? I don't know. Are they politically for the current administration or the opposite? So many questions. Surveys are kind of ambiguous. He's floating the idea of imposing a new sugar tax similar to the surcharge placed on tobacco products, bringing an issue of a sugar tax. Curbing the use of sugar through a levy and reinvesting the revenue to strengthen regional and public health care. What do you think? I don't know, because already we're at a point here in Korea where the recession is going on, the won to US dollar exchange rate, US dollar to won rate isn't really that good. And so now you're going to put more taxes on people and raise the cost of goods and services. You know, the cost of goods is going to go up. Is that really something we want? But then on the other hand, we also see in Korea that the national health insurance is having some problems as well. But then again, he also popped up and says, hey, I want to use national health insurance to pay for hair loss treatments for men because it is so detrimental and it's like, it's just hair loss. And we're not talking like disfigured in a car accident where, it burned my head and my hair's gone and get treatment. No, we're talking about guys that just, I've got a little bit there, I'm kind of thinning out and stuff. If you look at the back of my head, I don't even want to look at that. You lose hair. Some people are genetically disposed to losing their hair and no amount of treatment is going to do anything about it. So is that the best use of taxpayer funds? Or, I don't know, maybe just me, maybe that money would be better well spent on children and babies who have cancer or serious diseases, or hell, adults with cancer and heart disease and whatever. You see what I'm saying? Hair treatment or people with serious diseases that obviously needs more money. And then the fact that he ended up saying, well, this is treatment for men. Well, what about for women? Women weren't mentioned in that, and that was kind of problematic because people kind of got into an uproar. It's like, well, if you're going to do it for men, why aren't you going to do it for women? Why do men get the treatment but the women don't? Women lose hair. I mean, so there was already some divide there, but it seemed to me like he was doing this thing as to try to appeal to a certain demographic, men, middle-aged men that are losing their hair. And it just seemed, and now he wants to do a sugar tax. So instead of the national health insurance, which is not in a good spot anyway, because it's looking that they're going to spend more than what they bring in, and part of that is going to be due to hair treatment for men, which may or may not work. Taxpayer dollars, again, you're going in the red with that. So, but now he wants to do more taxes. So the more stuff that you want to do, but somebody's got to pay for it. So yeah, it ends up, it's like, hey, well, now we're going to do a sugar tax. And he wrote on X, sharing an article about a poll showing widespread public support for stronger measures to limit sugar consumption, including a sugar tax. I've been in Korea over 3 years this time. I've spent a total of 15 plus years in Korea altogether. Korea's not known for having a lot of sugar in their diets. I mean, yeah, you got snacks and you got convenience and stuff like that, but as a whole, I mean, even when they make their lattes and things like that, it's a really muted amount of sugar and sweetness that they have. Their pastries aren't as sweet as like we have in the United States. The United States, we just drown everything in sugar and fat. Korea, it's a little bit better. So it's just like it's kind of gone on the rise. But again, all of this sugar tax is just going to increase the cost of food. And yeah, Korea's already in a bad place anyway. So really, is raising taxes something that's going to raise the price of goods and services? Is that a good thing? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Let's take a look here. The survey released by Seoul National University found that 8 in 10 respondents were in favor of opposing a tax that used excessive sugar, while 75% supported levies on soft drinks, 72% for taxing confectionery, bread, and rice cakes. That is going to be, that must have been handpicked. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that was handpicked survey. Who are these respondents? What were their age groups? What are their political affiliations, and so on and so forth? And what does the survey look like? That's another big thing. You can say, well, yeah, we've got a survey, and we surveyed all these people. The way that you can do surveys you can really manipulate it to make it agree with your agenda, even though the people might not agree with that agenda. Yeah, it's a thing. So anyway, he ends up that a similar system similar to the current National Health Promotion Fund, financed by tobacco, is supporting anti-smoking campaigns and as well as a range of public health initiatives. Applying a similar model to the sugar would aim to curb excessive consumption by raising prices. Imagine that, what are the odds? While directing the proceeds toward strengthening the public healthcare system in unserved regions. There's the rub, because you always got to throw in these unserved regions. That's political speak with, it's for the children, it's for the poor and the needy that we're doing this for. But yet seriously, come on. The government tried to help in health initiatives they wanted more doctors. They said, hey, we've got these undeserving regions, or these, unserved regions in Korea that are lots of places outside of Seoul. If you're not in Seoul or Busan or the big 5 cities or whatever, you're going to have some problems. And so the government, in the last president who did the martial law thing, he said, hey, we're going to increase the number of medical school student slots. And there's like 100 medical schools or something in here in Korea. And it was like, we want to increase it to like 3,000 or 5,000, whatever it is. I think it was 5,000. It initially started out. And then the Korean Medical Association said, oh, no, we can't do that. That would lessen the prestige of being a doctor. Even though the Korean Medical Association said, hey, we're being overworked, we're working 36-hour shifts, we're seeing 100, 120 patients a day, average time with patient is maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes. And yeah, it is so overburdened and so overworked. People are like, it really is a train station. It is like, it's just crazy. There is excellent medical care in Korea, but on these outlying regions, they weren't getting the same type of care. So they said, hey, what we'll do is we'll increase the number of slots for medical school students, which will increase the slots for doctors, and we'll give special incentives for these doctors to serve in these unserviced areas. The Korean Medical Association said, oh, no, we can't do that. That would destroy our medical system. Now, it should be noted that it doesn't end up that the new additions of these additional doctors, they didn't lower any standards. None whatsoever. So I don't know how they would destroy the medical system. It would ruin everything. And it's like, no, the same certification, same qualifications, same residency, exact same. You're just adding 5,000 more. The Medical Association said no. The doctors' union said no. And they went on strike. They went on strike for over a year. And not only did they get the residents to go on strike, they got the medical school students to go on strike. Yeah. So now that is, and then the government said, hey, now we're going to drop it down to 3,000. Doctors' union, no, we're still going to go on strike. And during this time of strike, people were dying There's people that had heart attacks that went to 7 hospitals and couldn't get a hospital to go to, and they ended up passing away. And people couldn't get cancer treatment. So the Korean people are the ones that suffered because of this political strike. And I know I'm going on a rant. I'm sorry. But at the end of all this, finally the government bends its knee and says, nope, we give up. Because the doctors union in 27 years has never added any more doctors here in Korea. Even though we have a super aged population and they're overworked. They claim that they are overworked. And most of the hospitals are for-profit hospitals. They weren't going on strike because they weren't getting paid. They were going on strike because they didn't like the political agenda of saying, hey, we want to get more doctors in unserved areas in Korea. So when this president says, hey, we're going to do the sugar tax so that way we can do something for the unserved areas in Korea, I just really, I have a hard time believing that because the doctors' unions didn't really care. And their whole thing was, never once did I hear the Korean doctors union say, hey, we're being overworked. We don't need more doctors. Well, then how are you going to fix this overwork problem? How do you fix the fact that we're in super age society and appointments are being pushed back and pushed back because we don't have enough doctors and staff? Not once did the Korean Medical Association come up with any useful ideas. They just said, oh, if you add doctors, it's going to destroy our medical system. Same stuff. At the end of it all, this is getting towards the end of the rant here. At the end of it all, it ends up a bunch of Koreans died because they couldn't get treatment. Then it ends up that finally the head of the doctors union retires, steps down and says, oh, my bad. I didn't know this was going to happen. Now, we still have less doctors because a lot of those residents didn't return to work. And because the medical school students went on strike for over a year, it's going to be 2 or 3 years before we get back to pre-strike doctor levels, which is going to push back appointments 2 or 3 months or whatever. It's not going to be 8 months to a year like it was during the strike. But during the strike, they had emergency rooms close 1 or 2 days out of the week. There were some emergency centers that totally closed down because they didn't have the doctors. But, doctors union president, my bad, I didn't know that was happening. I'm going to retire. It was all political. Okay, let's get to some comments. Will they put it towards hair treatment? I don't know. Sugar tax, yeah, hair treatment. That'd be funny. You know what would be funny is if they found out that high consumption of sugar brings on hair loss, and then they use that to pay for the hair loss, and yet people are still going to eat sugar even though it's going to cost them more. Yeah. George says, I know I won't make any fans, however, personally, I'm anti-union for most things. For unions, at least in the United States, and George probably can agree with me on this, at one time unions were good because employees were getting punished, they were getting abused, they didn't have rights, not proper pay, no representation, no medical care, things like that. But then it got to the point of where, excuse me, then it got to the point of where the unions got too big and they lost their way. And so then it became a political thing, and then it just became corrupt like most unions end up being, is corrupt. So kind of like what we ended up seeing with the doctors thing. Yeah. When you had a Korean doctors union that says we don't need more doctors, even though all the reports show that you need more doctors, and even your own quotes say that you're overworked, and people are quitting the profession of being doctors and going overseas to be doctors because they have a better life over in other countries, that ought to tell you something. But no, it was all politics. Anyway, the sugar tax. Let's get back to the sugar tax. So anyway, he proposed amid growing public awareness of the health risks associated with excessive sugar consumption. The survey conducted with over 1,000 adults found support for stronger measures to rein in sugar consumption. Nearly 94% backed requiring warning labels on products with added sugar, similar to those on cigarette packs. While they show all the people that are like disfigured and lung cancer on packs of cigarettes, and people still buy it. 85.9% said that they're aware that added sugars are a major contributor to chronic disease. I have a problem with that because the major contributor to chronic disease is the lack of discipline. It's not the sugar. It's how much sugar you shove down your pie hole. I have a morning latte every single day. It's got a bit of sugar in it, but it's balanced out with the rest of my meals. And it's like, again, it's got to be within, you got to find equilibrium. But it just, chronic disease usually comes from overeating. And if you overeat anything, including sugar, you're going to have some problems. It's just the way it is. So I don't know how I feel about this. The respondents also strongly supported reinvesting sugar tax revenue into public interest programs, such as improving physical education, quality meals at schools, senior health care, strengthening the public medical workforce, and expanding health services for low-income groups. The problem is the Korean Doctors Association didn't want to have anything to do with helping servicing low-income groups that are outside of major hospital areas, so I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know. And as far as meal quality at schools, if you've seen the meals at Korean schools, they are way healthier than in the United States. So, yeah, I don't know. Despite the high level of support, 7 in 10 said that they were unaware that many governments around the world already have sugar tax. More than 120 countries currently implement sugar tax and similar measures in line with World Health Organization recommendations. For example, now here's the problem. They're gonna pull out an example of a country that is known for taxing the shit out of their citizens. For example, the United Kingdom's soft drink industry levy introduced in 2018, reducing the average sugar content of taxed beverages by 47% between 2015 and 2024. But yeah, excessive sugar intake or metabolic disorders, changes in the brain, depression, all that stuff, stressing that calls for a sugar tax are not simply about regulation, but also a way to encourage corporate responsibility. Minimizing public resistance to a sugar tax requires reinvesting the revenue for public interest, and it should be made clear that the levy is not intended to bolster state finances. How much are we going to tax people? That's what it comes down to. This, on one hand, it seems like, I kind of see that. There's, warning labels on cigarettes and stuff like that. There should be information from the government talking about, hey, don't eat so much sugar because, you're going to get fat and heart disease and strokes and stuff like that. You're going to turn ugly or whatever, hair's going to fall out, your teeth or whatever. But, there's that. But if you keep taxing people over and over and over again, especially during hard economic times like we have now, your people are like, another tax? Another tax. I'm having a hard time making ends meet right now. Surely there's something else that we can do. Maybe we could raise tariffs and do that. Kind of take a thing out of Trump's playbook. Let's raise some tariffs on some countries to help fund the national health care and so on and so forth, or, the national pension, which is like our Social Security. There's lots of different ways to do things. So on one hand, I see, yes, it can be good and it can help of, hey, I'm going to limit, but really, I don't know. It takes such a long time for that to have any positive effect. 2015 to 2024, that's a long time for the UK. And the same thing with cigarettes. There's still a ton of people that smoke cigarettes. And if you look on a pack of cigarettes here in Korea, they're, they got the warning pictures and, oh, this is, your head's going to explode and, erectile dysfunction, whatever, you have all these different things that could go bad with cigarettes, and people still chain smoke those like no tomorrow. But now it seems like vaping has surpassed cigarettes. So really, you're just changing one addiction for another. So I don't know how I feel about the sugar tax. I don't know. George says, started good, however, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That is true. That is true. Kind of like the unions. They started out good and then kind of ended up not being good. Government's good. Martial law, not so good. That didn't end up well. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of an interesting little thing that, what do we do here in Korea when we're talking about, how much tax can a society take on until people have had enough? And we don't really know. I mean, it's getting to a point of where it's hard to kind of make ends meet, and especially with the cost of goods and services that are going up because of the recession and a bad economy, and cost of living increases and pay and so on and so forth are not commensurate with those cost of living increases. Do you really want to add on more taxes? I don't know. I'm not that smart of a guy. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm more like a spork. I'm not a spoon. I'm kind of in that spork fork range. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I guess we can't fix this one, y'all. Men and women, we try to fix the world. If they would only do what we say here on this podcast, this video, then everything would be cool. But I don't know. The sugar tax thing, I'm just not sure about it. People are going to eat what they're going to eat. Let's change things here, because basically what ends up happening is there's a problem. There needs to be a savior. The government steps in. Is we're here to help the people. The government is the savior to the people, and they're going to save us from the horrors of eating too much sugar. We're going to save us from the horrors of this and that and this and that and more taxes. And then eventually it's like, then it goes even further. In the United States and the state of Washington, they're like, we're going to ban 3D printing because you can print a gun on a 3D printer. And it's like, I can go to a hardware store and make a gun faster than I could on a 3D printer. And it seems like they're trying to hamstring, how much stuff are they going to take away? If you look at the UK, you have taxes on how many windows you have in your house. You have taxes on the number of TVs that you have. You get taxed. And it's like, what? Seriously? I had a family member who was married, and his wife was a physician's assistant, and they worked over in England. The taxes are insane over there. If you look at, just Google it, Grok it, whatever whatever it is, Gemini it, whatever AI that you want to do, look at all the taxes that the UK has, and it's just like they're taxed to death. I don't know, because eventually the raise in taxes is a raise in goods and services, and people are not going to be able to do all that stuff. So it just brings them lower and lower, especially when the cost of living isn't commensurate with those raises in taxes and expenses and so on and so forth. So I don't know. We need a savior. We need somebody to save us. And Jesus came back to Korea. He is going to save us. I know. For those of you who are Bible students, who have read the Bible, I've done a lot of Bible reading myself. You should think that Jesus is a Jew. He's going to return to Israel, at least according to the book, and he is going to save the world. But no. Jesus reincarnated, and he's here in Korea. I know. It's hard to believe. But just set your critical thinking mind aside if we're going to talk about... This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. We're going to take a look at this. I Am Jesus, End Times Preacher, scams 5 billion won out of a bunch of people. This is crazy. People will believe anything. And yeah, a man who proclaimed himself to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ is under investigation for fraud and improper use of donations. Jesus, you got some explaining to do. And let's take a look at Jesus. It says here, a former writing instructor. Who knew? I thought he was a carpenter. But no, apparently he wanted to branch out and he was a writing instructor. Isn't it seem strange that Jesus, the reincarnation of Jesus, started a writing career, former writing instructor, and he didn't do well and he had to quit it? I mean, he's God incarnate, right? He's fully God and fully man, and he returned, and so he's supposedly God now. How come he couldn't excel at being a writing instructor? You'll be amazed at the number of people that fell for this bullshit. He launched a pseudo-religious movement on YouTube in 2023. What are the odds? Declaring himself to be the savior and warning that humanity was nearing its end. Oh no! The end is nigh. He urged followers to donate funds for what he described as a sanctuary, promising salvation to those who obeyed his instructions. What are the odds? That is like straight out of the Cult Leader Playbook 101. You declare that you have some mystical powers or revelation, or hell, you're even Jesus Christ reincarnated, but not Jewish this time, as a Korean, because he wanted to spread the wealth. You know, we went on one side, you know, we're Middle Eastern, but now we're going to hit Korea, and so I don't see that in the book. I don't see that in the Bible where Jesus says, hey, where God says, my son is going to return. He's going to be the savior of, oh, wait, let's throw him in Korea. Don't worry about Israel. We're going to throw him into Korea. Change 10,001. Yeah, it's just, and then donations, and then surprise, surprise. All of those things are then, I don't know, not used correctly. Police said he amassed 5 billion won, which is $3.5 million, since January 2024. 2025, 2026. In 2 years, he got $3.5 million. There's a lot of stupid people out there that check their brain at the door, watching these YouTube videos and like, oh, he says he's the reincarnation of Jesus. Here, take my money. I'm going to sell everything I own. It's kind of like Harold Camping and that bullshit that happened. I called that out, and yeah, imagine that didn't turn out well either. Rapture didn't happen the first time, because then he said it was an invisible rapture, and then the end of the world was supposed to happen, and then that didn't happen. And I even did a video on him and called him out and said, hey, write me a check for all the money that's in your bank account, because the end of the world is nigh. And when when you go and the world's going to be destroyed, supposedly you're not going to need any of that money in your checking account. Post date it for the day after the end of the world. And then if it doesn't happen, you need to make an apology video, and I will rip up the check. But if the end of the world is nigh, and for some other reason that I survived, I would make a video, and through perpetuity, I would leave that up, apologizing to Harold Camping that he was indeed true. And then, of course, there's no video of him being true. So, yeah, what are the odds? Anyway, I know. I get off onto some weird shit. So anyway, $3.5 million in 2 years. Holy crow. I'm in the wrong business. Number 4 appeared frequently in... The number 4? Appeared frequently in donation amounts. Okay, so there's kind of a numerical thing. The suspect claimed the number was sacred and instructed followers to send money featuring the digit prominently. One victim transferred 400 million won and 4,444 won. Let's 400 million won. There's 400 million divided by, we'll do 1450 for the exchange rate. You're talking $275,000. How stupid is that? That, I don't know. Um, to be fair, people watch Johnny Somali, so the world is full of idiots. That is absolutely true. But to believe that the reincarnation of Jesus is Korean, a failed writing instructor on YouTube, didn't walk on water, didn't feed 5,000 people, didn't heal anybody, did nothing that Jesus did. But yeah, suspects, he told victims to take mortgages out, credit card loans, and cash and insurance policies to pay him, and they did it. He was the suspect was himself subscribed to insurance policies and enjoyed an affluent life of luxury cars, elite private schools for all three of his children, and a luxury apartment. While he also had followers do his chores and drive him around. Officials at Hwasun Dongtan Station Police at Gyeonggi Province are investigating the man for fraud and violation of the Act on Collection and Use of Donations. There it is, right there. What are the odds that a religious leader but abused donations, claiming that he is the Messiah, and it's like, but how is that even possible? Your brain has, and people are gullible. I have fell for a lot of things. I fell into the thing of, hey, we got Swedish Forge here. Hey, he pops in, says hi. Hey. I mean, I fell into things when I was younger that I probably shouldn't have fallen into. Amway is going to make you a millionaire, multi-level marketing companies. I did a few of those, and of course, never became a millionaire in any stretch of the imagination. There were some religious things that I got involved in that were like, yeah, that probably wouldn't have been a good idea. Nothing crazy. But, again, we have these things between our ears. It's called the brain, and we have this ability to reason and function, use common sense, and most importantly, look for proof. You should be able to prove what you are. So if somebody comes along on YouTube here in Korea and says, I'm the reincarnation of Jesus, it's like, prove it. Because here's the thing, the Bible says absolutely nothing about it. There is no reincarnation in the Bible. So that just blows my mind that people that are supposedly Christians and follow the Bible would fall for this guy. I don't get it. But then again, there's a lot of weird people everywhere, and Korea is not exempt from that. But yeah, it's just like, and here's the other thing. When you look at this guy, and he's getting all this millions of dollars, $3.5 million in 2 years, that's insane. Private elite schools for all his children. So he's got a wife and 3 kids. Do his kids know that he claims to be the Messiah? Or are they just like, yeah, Dad says he's the Messiah, I don't care, just as long as I get my new iPhone, as long as I get my Dolce & Gabbana handbag and stuff, and my plastic surgery or whatever, I don't really care. Is that how it goes in the household? Or are his kids and wife oblivious? Do they not know? What do you do, Dad? Oh, I'm consulting. I teach writing, and really on the side, he's the reincarnation of Jesus, and they just don't know anything about it. I have a hard time believing that. Yeah. I don't know. Swedish Forge says, I have proof that I'm the best, or what are we talking about? We're talking about a guy who claimed to be Jesus, the end-time preacher here in Korea, Jesus Christ reincarnated in Korea in the form of a Korean man who was a failed writing instructor who said the end of the world was nigh and you need to give him money so that you will be saved, and he's going to use this money as a sanctuary for people, and of course he didn't. He spent it on luxury items and so on and so forth. In 2 years, he got $3.5 million. That just boggles my mind. But the fact that you could have people that gullible, that is astounding. That is just like, I have a hard time I don't know. But then again, I've met people who have been in religious cults, like crazy ass cults. And they just want so hard to belong to something. They just want some reassurance. They just want somebody to say it's going to be okay. And they just want to be loved. They want some attention. They want to be loved. They want to be secure. They want to be told that everything's right. And it gets to the point of where I'm going to check my brain at the door and I'll just believe whatever this person says because I want that so bad. And that's what happens with these people. I mean, could you imagine? The one person donated $275,000. That is insane. The average person in their lifetime in the United States only makes up like $900,000 in their entire life. And that's with expenses. So this guy made $275,000 from one donation. $275,000. That is insane. I just don't get it. I would think if this guy really was the incarnation of Jesus Christ and he got a bunch of money, he would be smart enough to take that money and move to a country with no extradition. So apparently that fails the test. So that means he's not really Jesus either. I don't know. Maybe he's going to be like Paul and he's going to go to prison and an angel's going to show up and let him out of prison, kind of like what we saw in the book, the Bible and whatever. It's like, I don't know. I highly doubt it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not. So yeah, we've got some interesting, crazy people here in Korea as well, but the majority of them are great. The majority of people, Korean people, are hardworking, they're polite, they're respectful, they want good for their families, they work hard jobs. It's hard during this economic time here in Korea. The majority of Korean people that I know have a good head on their shoulders, more so than in the United States. Maybe that's a little bit, I don't know, because there's only like 50 million people here in Korea. United States, you got like 350 million, so maybe it's a little bit skewed, but there's some pretty dumb people everywhere. But there seems to be less of them here in Korea overall. So anyway, Swedish Ford says, Steve, what do I see next from you? Something big? This is a big thing here. I printed this out. So we're just getting some filler into this. So a little Warhammer thing that we got going on. I'm going to try to print, well, it's already printed. We got to do some sanding. We'll do another primer on it, and then we'll probably paint this up. So we've got this going on. For those of you, this is a 3D printed prop type of thing. And so as I'm retired here in Korea, I need something to do. So what better than make props? I don't know. So we got that. I do have, this doesn't have to do with Korea. Well, it does because I live in Korea. But I've got an ultrasonic blade cutter that I'm going to review. A company sent that to me, so I'm going to look forward to that. And I've got another company that's sending me one as well. So we're going to be sword fighting and see which one wins. I don't know. Sword fighting. So we got that on board. I still have the big axe, the Warhammer axe that we've got. And we're doing a little bit of filling on that to get rid of some layer lines and stuff. So slowly but surely, we'll end up doing this as well. But right now, that is on the pile of shame. So we've got that. Another big project that we have is my daughter wants a Lord of the Rings sword from Aragon, the sword that was broken. They put it back together. She wants that, so I'll be printing that out. And then I printed out another guy here, a bigger one, if you can see that guy there. So we did a little bit of basing. I got to do a little bit of work because he's kind of got his foot raised there. I think I might just put some little, on this one here, because he's kind of, I need to stuff some more cork on there so that we can end up and we'll do kind of a cool thing. So I printed this guy. This guy's a little bit bigger. I'm going to do a different color scheme with him. So we've got that going on. And then Let's see what else. Let's see. Swedish says, "Will you we'll send you an STL file that you can print out as this week's print." Oh, okay. Depends on what the print is. It's got to be within good taste. I don't want it to be like something weird. I don't know. Swedish says, maybe you should print a bigger one like that. Ah, yeah. How big though? I mean, this is, how tall is that? I know, there's so much. And that ends up in, it's about 20 centimeters. So about 8 inches, 8 inches. Pretty good size. But I have so much to paint, so much to do. I don't know. And then I also have the 0.2 millimeter nozzles for my 3D printer to kind of play around with that. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of different things. But send me an STL. We can take a look at that. Maybe that would be an idea. I could print out, somebody sends me an STL, and I mostly, bigger one than that, a cool print, 50 to 80 centimeters. 80 to, let's see. That is, about 3.5 feet or so. I mean, that's kind of a big, that would be big. I don't know where I would put that. That's the problem. Where would I put that? I guess I could put it in the background, I guess. I mean, on the thing back there. For reference, you see the Hulk back here. The Hulk back here is, he's about 40 centimeters. So if we did 70, it would be that tall. That's kind of tall. So it'd be, yeah, that high. I mean, that could look cool. I could put like that guy there and then put the Hulk over here. That would be interesting. I don't know. Interesting. And then I've got to paint it too. So I don't know. 50 to 80 centimeters. 50 could be good. Swedish says he'll find a really good figure that you can print, so give me some time and it'll come. Okay, yeah, no problem. Take your time. I've got a lot of stuff to do. So 50. So 50 centimeters wouldn't be bad. That's about 50 to 80. So maybe 2 feet. That's like 61. So 2 feet is 61 centimeters. So something like that. I don't know. That could work out, I guess. That could work out. Yeah. The majority of the models that I print out are free models that I found either on Maker World, Cults 3D, Things, Thingiverse, Printables, things like that. So, yeah, something like that. Let's see. What else do we got going on here? No. I don't know. I think that's pretty much it of what we got going on. Let me check and see if I got anything interesting in the email, because people do send me stuff from time to time. We'll see what happens. Nope. I got over 350,000 views on YouTube so far. So that's kind of cool. Not bad. I guess my little sign over there needs to get updated. Let's see. Terry is a guy. Uh-oh, we got another guy in the Philippines that is causing problems. What are the odds? What are the odds of somebody doing stupid? And that's another interesting thing. I've noticed since I've been retired in Korea, it ends up, we don't get a lot of stupid people here in Korea. We don't get stupid expats. I've been here for over 3 years now, being retired here in Korea. You don't see a lot of stupid expats, especially retirees. Whereas if you go to the Philippines or if you go to Thailand, you go to some other countries that, let's just say, have low entry requirements into their country or low income requirements into those countries, you'll have a lot of nuisance streamers. You get a lot of stupid people. I've been looking a lot at the Philippines, especially since we're going to go there. We're going to check out the Philippines come the end of March. We're going to spend about 2 weeks there. We're going to go to Cebu. We're going to go to Boracay and, just kind of check out the Philippines. So I've been watching more and more on the Philippines. Well, it ends up there's a lot of expats and a lot of retirees. Expats, whatever, that's fine. People are going to do what they're going to do. But the retirees, holy crow, there is more drama in the Philippines with retirees than I've seen in high school. It's like drama all over the place. And you've got people talking about scammers. You've got scammers, retirees that are telling you how to retire in Korea. Donate to my channel because, we're going to support an orphanage, or we're going to do, put a well for the less deserving or undesirables out in the provinces or whatever. Then it ends up, they never got the well, they never got the money. What are the odds? People scamming people on YouTube. What are, crazy. But there seems to be a lot of that in the Philippines, and compared to Korea, it's like, man, we don't have any of that drama. I have looked and looked and looked on YouTube about retirees in Korea and drama and crazy stuff, and I just don't find it. Thankfully, it's good. Oh. So I don't know. And Terry sent this, the video. Maybe we'll take a look at that. Swedish Force says, do you like Marvel figures? 4 terabytes of figures. Wow. Yeah, I like Marvel. Marvel's good. Like I said, I like the Hulk. Star Wars is good. I like the Mandalorian, done that. So, but don't do anything illegal. Don't, if you buy something and then you give it to me to print out, that wouldn't be a good thing. That's not right for the creator. So, but free stuff, yeah, I'll print free stuff all day long. So, but let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, disrespectful American blogger arrested in the Philippines. What are the odds? Let's take a look at that. Maybe we can do that. I'm not going to do the audio because if there's any music, it would end up, I could get a copyright strike. So we have that, and we will have the closed captions. We'll see how this goes. Sweetie says, okay, I'll send you some. Okay, well, just pick out a cool one. I trust your judgment. So let's see what this wackadoo. And it looks like this is a kick streamer dude. Young nuisance streamer getting in trouble in the Philippines. I didn't mean to, blah, blah, blah. Peso exchange rate. American vlogger in trouble. Yeah, another TikTok idiot. American national arrested at the Mobolo police station for assaulting a woman he was dating inside a disco bar early Sunday morning, January 11th. And what are the odds? So it talks about this guy if there's anything official. So again, these people are like the idiots. They're the dredges of society. And, they grab a camera, they stream, people send them money for doing stupid stuff. And yeah, they end up just doing stupid stuff. So this guy got in trouble. I mean, you assault your girlfriend, really? You're a horrible human being if you do stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely disgusting. They started dating. However, when they transferred to a bar, the foreign national allegedly struck her in the face and nose. The victim added that they were drinking at a bar when an argument occurred, and due to intoxication, the suspect suddenly struck her, causing physical injuries. Victim works as a virtual assistant. Because of the injuries she sustained, the victim is determined to file charges against him for violation of the Republic Act, blah, blah, blah. Anti-violence against women and children. yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, seriously. I mean, how come people can't be nice? I don't get it, especially to women. It's just the whole situation there. And then this guy talks about Vitaly, who ends up, he's out of the Philippines. Yeah, we got the whole thing here. So Vitaly's been deported out of the Philippines, and he's going right back to his evil nuisance streaming ways. And yeah, so he's out. He's doing a documentary on supposedly the corruption in the prisons in the Philippines. Supposedly he found God in the whole 9 yards, and it ends up it's just horrible. Vitaly is a horrible human being, so we're not even going to give him airtime. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy on these young people that expats and whatever, nuisance streamers is what they really are. And it ends up, it's just absolutely insane how poorly they treat people of the countries that they're in. And like that guy, he's beating his girlfriend up. I mean, you should, like I said in a previous video, I think other countries ought to look at people like Johnny Somali, Vitaly, like this other idiot. There ought to be a list, and where somebody gets in trouble and they're obviously a nuisance streamer, that countries would pre-ban them. In other words, you can't come into the country because we saw that you're an idiot in the Philippines or an idiot in some other country or even your home country. They're just ban those people to begin with. And I think that would go a long way to protecting people. Kind of like the Johnny Somali. He's been in trouble in Israel. He got in trouble for Japan. He ended up doing like 3 months in Japan when he got arrested and so on and so forth. And then he comes to Korea. When he was in trouble in Japan, Korea should have said, and other countries should have said, yeah, let's just ban him. Don't allow him entry to our country. Boom, done deal. That time is coming. That time is coming, folks. Nefertim pops in, says, greetings, Steve. Nice to see you again. Another beautiful day in the rock. Yes, it is. It is cold. It is cold. I think it's like, 30 degrees today? It is, let me see. It is going to be a chilly one. It's 20 degrees right now, and the high is going to be 32. But with a little bit of wind, it is going to be rough. So we're looking at highs of 32 today, 26, 33, 35. By next week, we'll get into the 40s, some 40s, and then it'll drop back down a little bit. So, yeah, it is definitely indoor weather here in Korea. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. Like I said, the amount of drama that happens in other countries, Philippines, Thailand, all of these less developed nations, let's put it. The people are great, nothing against people there, but they have less developed nations. They have lower income requirements. It's easy to get into those countries. And unfortunately, a lot of bad people take advantage of that and they abuse the citizens of those countries. Here in Korea, for the most part, when we're talking about retirees like myself and others, I haven't seen any drama yet in over 3 years with retirees. I mean, I've run into some people that I don't like, but that's just a personal thing. It's not that they're causing drama or they're being excessively stupid or, beating their wife and kids or whatever. No, it's just causing problems. No, there's none of that. And, if you don't like me, then that's absolutely fine. I'm grown, I'm civil, I'm mature. I understand that there's things that even just the way I breathe, you might not like that, and I'm okay with that. I don't have to take that personally. If you don't like me as a person, that's no skin off my nose, and vice versa. But here in Korea, we don't have the drama with retirees like you see in Thailand and Philippines and in a lot of other less developed countries. So I take that as a blessing. I take that as really, really nice. I take comfort in that, and it's like that also kind of reminds me to not do stupid stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. What do y'all think? Am I just off my rocker, or I don't know? As people that are older and retirees, I'm going to be 60 this year. You should have grown in maturity and civility. You should be open-minded. You should look for facts. You should let stuff, let stuff roll off your back. Don't be so offended. I've worked in prisons, and I've had inmates tell me that they were going to do certain things to my mother, unquestionable things, and it's trying to get a rise out of me. And it's like, okay, and trying to get a rise out of me. And it's like, it's, if you do that, you'll get in trouble and you go to prison, for one. But calling my mother certain names or calling me or whatever, it doesn't matter. That doesn't offend me. I'm not shamed. I'm not guilty. I'm not going to get pissed off at you for you calling my mother something. And because if you don't give that power to them, they don't have anything. And that's what I learned in the military. That's what I learned in working in prisons, doing prison ministry and stuff like that. You can call me any name under the book. I don't really care, because one, it's not true, and you're just trying to get a rise out of me. And if you're resorting to ad hominem attacks for whatever it is, then you're probably not the person I want to hang around with. But the good thing is, here in Korea, we don't see a lot of that. So, it's really good. Swedish Forge says, check these out, and what do you think about them? Newer CM28 Pro Search. Let's look that up. Sudden change of topic. Newer is kind of like, they do like camera stands and lights and stuff like that. Newer CM28 Pro. Oh, okay. Let's take a look at that. It is a wireless lapel mic. Interesting. One transmitter, one receiver, or two transmitters, one receiver. Let's see how much that runs. So that's kind of like what I have. I've got the DJI wireless mic. It almost looks similar. But how much is it? Dun dun dun. It can be shipped. Oh, but $45, $46, $60. Of course, it can't be shipped here, but it's not bad. $139. I don't know. I've never used them, but it looks kind of similar to. There's your transmitter. There's your receiver. On, off. You can, I guess, increase decibels. What else can you do with that thing? Set them up on your phone, streaming. You can do lapel mic. That looks pretty good. Stereo, mono. That's nice. One-click noise cancellation and recording. Ooh, that's kind of an interesting little thing there. You can hook it up for eternal recording backup. Nice. I don't know. It looks pretty decent. Real-time monitoring. That's good. The other thing that you can hook it up to your phone. That's kind of a good thing. Use it as a lapel mic. Adapters. magnets. Yeah, it's kind of similar to the DJI one that I got. That'll be interesting. Yeah, keep me informed. Let me know about that, how that works out. I'm going to run my DJI wireless mic until it dies. So, but yeah, the thing about technology nowadays, there's so much of it available that it ends up that companies come out and with some pretty good products. Swedish Ford says he's going to get those on Saturday. Ooh, yes. Cool. I just got something. This is going to be, I ended up getting a tool bag. So this is like a backpack tool bag. And of course you got zippers and pockets and stuff like that. But what I'm going to end up doing, got some pocket areas, but it's got a pretty significant amount of space in there. And what I'm going to end up doing is making an insert that'll probably come up about this high on my 3D printer. And I'll use it to transport miniatures and painting supplies, because tonight I'm going to go to that tabletop hobby paint night thing. So I'm going to take some miniatures and go painting. But I already started. Let's see if I can show you what I've been spending a lot of time on Tinkercad. So let's take a look at this. Dun dun. So what I thought about doing was doing something like this, and to make a carrying case that had some slotted, some areas where you could put some slots and some trays. And then we've got like little guys here that, for miniatures, that you could put those in there. Yeah, of course. Refresh. So you get for leaving so many things online. So many tabs open. Da, 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 da. So, yeah, I was thinking about making one of these, but that's going to be like 2 kilos of filament. So it was like, but, with like the number of paints, you'd have like 20 paints, 28 paints, and then you have all of these. And then I thought, you know what, we'll make a smaller one, which is kind of like this one back here. And so we get that, and then you could transport miniatures, paintbrushes, and stuff like that. And then when I got that backpack, it ended up making something like this. Hey, sweetie.
Hi, honey.
How was it?
Good.
Cold?
No.
No?
Better. Yeah.
Really?
What's my face?
See?
Not better?
Not bad. The wife?
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Come here, say hi to everybody. So this is the wife.
Hi.
She's awesome. She's incredible. That camera. She's awesome. So, but yeah, so I started anyway. Where were we at? Oh yeah, we were talking about the miniature case thing. So, she takes my breath away, that's right. So anyway, decided that I made this up, and this one here will fit in that backpack, and so I can end up having like a tray that'll move in there. Yep. And then have like another tray, and so you could have like different things in there, and then you could have your little miniature tray, kind of put that in a slot as well, and you'd have a carrying case. And then the other thing I was thinking about doing, I think I'll change this, but I'll have a little like slot to where you could like put this dowel in there, and then throw up a little handle up on the top, something like that. And so that way I could put that inside the case. And I'm thinking about maybe changing this front here with like just having cover, a front cover, kind of like, instead of doing that dowel to hold things in there, that maybe I could end up doing something like, get that in there. And then maybe, I don't know, let's see, if we could do a quick little, something kind of like that. And then we'll make it about, I don't know, 4. And then we could just crank that up. And so kind of like that. And then have a slot where we could put that in there. Swedish says make a sliding lid from top to bottom. Yeah, so I was thinking about doing a slot to where this would be slotted. So I'd have to extend that out a little bit. But yeah, something so that it would go in a slot. And I kind of did that with this over here. So I kind of did a thing to where it has some slots there where you could put in something there. So I was thinking about doing something like that on this one here. So that way you could use this to encase everything. And then I could also take this and then use it as like a little place where you can put your stuff. So it's kind of a dual purpose type of thing, like a cutting mat or something like that on there or whatever. Just to be able to enclose all that, and then that way you could carry it. But yeah, this big one ended up, that was going to be like over 2 kilos of material. So I think that was overkill. And then I made some adjustments and I made this one smaller. And I haven't even tested that one out to see. Yeah, that's the one I ended up making up. And then the other thing I was thinking about doing is, I don't know, it's still going to be a lot of filament. We'll see. We'll see. So, and you could do like, I ended up like this here. You could make a little tray, and on the inside of the tray, you could put that flexible magnet base on there, on the inside of this. And then if you have magnets on the bottom of your miniatures, they would stick to that, and you could safely transport your items. So I was thinking about something like that for that bag, and so that way I could store paints, I could store brushes, miniatures, go do that stuff and whatever. So, hey, we got MD here. Mirdeef, I think that's it. Call you MD. So yeah, I've been kind of messing around with that, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know. The currently, I think, let's pull up Creality Prints, because I was playing around with that. And I think I ended up, let's see, the recent projects, bag carrying case, open front. So kind of doing something like this. The good thing about this is that this would fit inside my K2 Plus. Go, Steve, you fix it. I'm trying. But I think when we'll have to slice everything. Slice all. And we'll see how much filament this will take. And I thinned out the walls. I made them a little bit thinner. So that way that would save on, oh, we got something that's over the boundary. Yeah. That's odd. Okay, let's slice all and see what this came out to. So yeah, I've been playing around with this, and yeah, this will take 728 meters or 2,171 grams. So I can get a spool of 2.5 kilo spool, and this will take 2 days and 15 hours to do everything, with a total cost of $43. I don't know. I mean, it would work, but I'm not sure. I don't know. And again, I lessened the amount of material. Another thing I'm thinking about doing is instead of doing like everything on this, like that back portion there, that's also 3D printed. But I'm thinking maybe if I just get like 3mm board, that's pretty inexpensive, and I could do a slot for the back and then a slot for the front, and that way I don't have to print all this here. It'd just be kind of like a box with no top or bottom, and then have that wood board would slide in slots there, and so that would take out a lot of the material and minimize the amount of material. So I'm thinking about that too. So yeah, I don't know. That's what we got going on. $43 for that. Yeah, it's a little steep. That's why I want to try to do some different stuff, and we'll see how it goes. How many walls do you have on the model? Infill, that's a good question. I ended up 0.2 and 15%. I mean, I guess I could drop that to 7% maybe. And that's adaptive cubic. Maybe I should do that in like gyroid, because that would give a little bit more. So now that's 660 meters, 1,968 grams, 2 days, 10 hours, 39 minutes, and I brought it down to $39.37. So we could do that. I wonder if on gyroid, so $39, 1968. Let's try gyroid, and we'll see how that goes. Let's see what that comes out. So he just says test 5% and 3 walls. So that's going back up. Gyroid is going to be more. I don't know, adaptive cubic? I think that could be good enough. 5%? I'll try that. And how many walls? So I got 3 walls, yeah. So let's slice this up again and we'll see how this works. The latte is gone. 1,909, cost $38.19. So that saved a little bit. So let's take a look and see how that would turn out. As far as that infill. I mean, I think that could work out, because it's not like we're carrying, you know, real heavy stuff. All it's going to end up carrying is just basically, you know, some miniatures and some paints, you know, little 17mm paint bottles. So yeah, maybe I could get away with a 5%. And there's 3 walls, because you have 3 walls in the top or bottom. Go to 4 walls. Yeah, because your walls are going to give you your strength anyway. So it could go down. So we do 4 walls. I'd probably keep that at 5%. I don't know. What do you think? Keep the infill density at 5 with 4 wall loops? Let's just slice this plate and see what that looks like. Because yeah, that's where your strength is going to come, is from your walls. So for those of you who don't know, we see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 walls, and then 4 walls there. So that's really going to give us our grind. Infill grind. Take infill grind. Okay, we got grid. Take. Lighting, cross, tetrahedron, gradual. I don't have a grind. Infill grind. That must be a new one or on a different up. How far up? Grid? Is that what you're talking about? Grid? Come on, slice, plate, go. Oh, grid. Okay, gotcha. So that would be 1,199. 1 day, 8 hours. 23 bucks. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that would be a lot better. We would definitely save money. Half. That's awesome. So there we'd see that. Yeah, that could work out good. I think that would be enough. Yeah, the 4 walls would probably give enough strength to that. Let's take a look at like the plate. Swedish says there was a slight spelling error. No big deal. I do it all the time. So, yeah, that could work. That would be good for the tray. I think that's enough support there. I think that's doable. Generally, I don't like grid because your nozzle's going to cross those at the intersections. And so I guess that's just from a long time ago that you would kind of see you'd see the problems with grid with older bed slingers, and the nozzle would hit those. Not so much for these, but yeah, interesting. Grid, 5%. Nice. What'd you do, hon?
Went to dump the trash, honey.
Oh, okay. So that's not bad. So, yeah, making something like this, and then if I got rid of this back piece here, this bottom here, and just did that with a board, and do a sliding board on the front as well, that would reduce a lot of that. And then we could get that down to, because the board wouldn't be expensive, I just have to cut it. Let's see if we can do negative part. Okay. I don't know how to do that. I've never used the negative part stuff. Sweetie says he sometimes uses honeycomb. Yeah, I think the grid would work on that. That could work. Let's take a look at that. No, I don't want that. I want global. I was wondering why everything is messed up. So it's like 23, and if we do honeycomb, let's slice it all and we'll see what we get with that one. I like little Warhammer dagger, my oversized Warhammer dagger. Okay, so this would come out to $45. Ooh, honeycomb. Holy crap. 2,267 grams. Maybe grid would be better. Adaptive cubic. Let's see how that runs. I don't want to export. Slice all. Hold, and we'll see what happens. And this would end up, that's 43 bucks as well, so not adaptive cubic. I don't think. Lightning is a weird one. I haven't done lightning. I've never tried that. Let's see what that looks like. I've never actually looked at, well, I think I have once. Still, $40.85. That would, yeah, no lighting. I don't know. I think the grid is going to would be the best. Lattice, honeycomb, zig, gradual. These are some new ones. Gradual, TP, MSG, and D. Let's try the G and see what happens. So it just says you can try it out to see which one is best. I think the grid is going to be good. That'd save us the most money. And we'll see how that goes. So on this one, yeah, that's not going to do anything either. I think grid is it. I think that was a good call on that. Because all these other ones are going to have too much. So I think the grid would actually be it. Because that'll get us into the, like, what is it, $20, $23, $24 range for that. No, that's 44. Where did I get the... Why? I thought we had that down to... So he just says, what you said about grid, I've never had that problem. Yeah, and I think that comes from when we worked with bed slingers a long time ago. They had that problem where if you had the grid, the nozzle would sometimes catch, and then yeah, you would knock it and knock prints over, stuff like that. Like I said, nowadays it's not that much of a problem, but I guess I just kind of got away from that and old habits. So we got Hackett comes in, says howdy. We're seeing bug, restart program. I think you're right. Adaptive cubic. Let's go back to grid. And if not, if it doesn't work this time, then we'll restart it. And $44 on that. Okay. No. Let's restart. Restart. Let's go back and recent project. So I ended up, boom, 3 walls. So increase that to 4. Change that to 5 for infill and grid. And we'll slice all. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Oh, I got boundary issues now. Seriously, I think there's something wrong. Because it just puts all these down. Why does it do that? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just adjust all these and center them. And then we'll save this. And now we should be good. Alrighty. The boxes you had fit all the compartments. Yes. It's still 44. I don't know. Maybe I was doing something wrong. Or maybe it was just the... Oh, okay. That's what it was. So just this box here was $23, almost $24. Okay. All right. All right. I got it. Not enough coffee. Right click on the model and select center. So let's put this off here. If we do that, and we could put center. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Gotcha. So it has to be the selected. So if we go like that, then do center, or F5. So if I do that, and then do F5. No, now, that's not what I want. Okay. Apparently that's a shortcut for something else. Center. Or dictation. Okay, so there it is. Anyway, about 40 bucks. We'll see how that goes. It ends up that, yeah, we'll make some changes. Maybe I'll buy some boards to reduce the cost, and of course it'll reduce the print time as well. Instead of having like this back be fully printed, we could just do the walls on this and have a slide-in board in the front and the back, and yeah, we could save some money that way. Let's see what else. We got hack here. It says the whole First Lady drama went on for years. For a handbag is finally settled. 1.5 years of prison. Seems pretty insane. They dug up so much on her. Yeah, it ends up it was 1 year and 8 months, 9 months. And that was for the bribe thing for the Unification Church. So, but I don't know if she's still going through some other cases, but that's what she's got so far. I don't know if it's done and that's it. But yeah, we'll see what happens. All models cost pretty much $44. Yeah. So we'll have to play around with that and give that a shot. Probably do some wood stuff in there to reduce the price. But then I have to buy the wood, and I don't know if it would really be worth doing that. Hack says apparently there was cheating for her degree in insider trading. Yeah. She was involved in, matter of fact, her degree and her thesis was heavily plagiarized. Somebody actually checked that, not when she did it, but afterwards, and found out that was, yeah, plagiarized. So, yeah, that was taken away. First Lady, prison time, 1 year and 9 months, I think that was going to be it. Yeah, year and 8 months. That was for the Unification Church bribery thing. So, yeah, yeah. But here's what the First Lady looks like. I mean, yeah. I don't know. She just got into trouble. That's good. Hack says, I never heard of that Unification Church until that whole scandal was brought up. Seems like a very powerful organization doing not great things. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. Big, giant, organized religion. Yeah, always going to be some corruption. May I ask who you're talking about now? Oh, this is the, I'm sorry about that. It ends up that this lady is the former First Lady of the President of Korea, the last one that we just had that was removed from office because he declared martial law. And so he's in trouble. He's going to court. And then she is his husband, and she was involved in a number of things like insider trading with Deutsche Group, stock manipulation. She received a bunch of gifts that was over the monetary value that she was allowed to take. And then she took bribes from the Unification Church here in Korea and a number of other things. So yeah, it's they're kind of they're gonna do her in. They're gonna do her in. So, but yeah, just kind of crazy. Yep. And supposedly she had been hospitalized for depression and other health issues. So they're trying to play it like, oh, be gentle on her because she has a medical condition. She has depression. She's going through a hard time and blah, blah, blah. And of course, the ex-president did that as well. He claimed that he was depression, but it was all just plays to not go to trial. So luxury handbags, all of that stuff. It's just, yeah, it's just not good. I don't know. I don't know. Not going to go well, that's for sure. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Retired in Korea, we had some dancing grandmas. Probably not my cup of tea, but if, dancing, moving around, if you're having fun, enjoy it. We talked about the First Lady getting some prison time, the year and 8 months, for the bribes of the Unification Church. They're under investigation in Korea as well. The current president talking about doing sugar tax, which I don't know if raising the cost of taxes is good, especially when the economy is not in a good position right now. So, and especially when the now president wants to use national health care to treat hair loss for men. That seems like a poor use of money, in my opinion. Not for like medical emergencies or disfigurement or burn my face off. I need hair treatment. No, we're talking about just any guy who's losing his hair. I don't think that's a good use of taxpayer funds, in my opinion. And then the women were excluded. So I don't know. Fair and equal treatment? No, not so much. Then it ended up, we talked about Jesus being reincarnated here in Korea, a dude who was a failed writing instructor. I mean, if you're Jesus reincarnated, don't you think you would excel at everything? But apparently not. And then he scammed $3.5 million out of people who were sending him donations. He did that in 2 years, which is absolutely insane. Sweetie says maybe the First Lady, Kim Kyung-hee, would be Trump's next wife. I don't think so. I think she's got enough of her own problems. Let's see. Hack says they also had some weird scandal about water consumption because they were filling and emptying pools for their 12 dogs. Oh yeah, they were living the high life. It was all kinds of rumors and abuse, and if half of it is true, it was just like, yeah, not good, not good. You have a picture of fake Jesus? I don't think we did. Nope, They don't have a picture of him. It's just fake Jesus, reincarnated Jesus with, I don't know, Korean features. No, they didn't show a picture of him. And they didn't do his name either. They just said a man who proclaimed himself. And yeah, he did this all on YouTube, which is absolutely crazy. $3.5 million. And he ended up using that money for luxury cars, elite private schools for all of his 3 children, and a luxury apartment. So he's under investigation. So Jesus screwed up. He's getting investigated by the police. So yeah. Green face smiling. Greed will get you every time. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Interesting things here in Korea, and projects that we're doing in printing and painting and all that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting to see. So much going on being retired here in Korea. Got to stay busy. And then some of the other things that I have coming up. I have a miniature painting thing that I'm going to go to tonight. And then tomorrow, colonoscopy. Yeah, that'll be fun. Looking forward to that one. Hack says, as God wanted, I prayed for a Lambo and he materialized it. Yeah, imagine that. Hack says, what were the boxes you were printing? Oh, those boxes were miniature painting. Let's take a look at this. Like a miniature carrying case. So kind of like that. So it would be something that would, like a carrying case, you'd have some slide-in drawers, you could have like a little paint thing there, you could put a number of paints like that, hold like 28 paints, 20 and 28. It could hold some little, miniatures, 35 or 32 millimeter bases and stuff like that, so you could carry them. And then I made a smaller one, like this one, because I wanted this to go inside of a backpack that I picked up. So I'm not going to be able to use that tonight, but yeah, just kind of going over and trying some different types. So we'll see. But I'm thinking about taking and doing something to where it would kind of slide, have like a slot so that it would slide up and out and down, something like that. So okay, well, let me get here. Sweetie says, now you're skipping messages for me. Have you learned to speak Korean? A little bit. My Korean is probably, we got a lot of comments. Holy crow. Wow, all of these just kind of populated. So let me hit up, yeah, Swedish asks, have you learned to speak Korean? I can speak a little bit of Korean. I can order food. I can find a bathroom. I can do really, really simple conversations. I can introduce myself. Steve Wilson Imnida, Hanguk Mao Chokomadayo. I can speak a little bit of Korean. Wajungshul, Odisoyo. Where's the bathroom? Mekju Hanajuseo. Can I have a beer? Let's see. So yeah, a little bit. Sweetie says, thank you for answering. Oh, you're welcome. Sorry I didn't get the comment. There was some lag, and then all of a sudden it just like populated with all the comments. So maybe some bandwidth thing. Hack is talking about the box that I've made in Tinkercad. Seems like a complicated project or easy? Not too bad. It's just getting the dimensions, and actually the more I do it, the easier it gets. So the first box that I ended up doing, it took a long time because I was like, and it was too big, and it was too thick. The walls were too thick. So yeah, just kind of fine tuning. And so this last one that I ended up doing, it was, once I got the dimensions and the slots and everything, boom, it was fairly easy. So yeah, not bad, not bad. I could do it from scratch and it would be a hell of a lot easier. So not too bad. But Tinkercad is pretty easy to use. It's kind of like the crayon version of CAD programs. So that's kind of my speed. It ends up, it's all right. Swedish says, will you post it so we can download the box? Yeah, when I finish it up, and if I print this out, I will put it on my Creality print page. So for those of you who are wondering what he's talking about, I want to show you. Let me check in here and sign in. And what I end up doing, so this is my Creality Cloud page, and these are a bunch of models that I've made on Tinkercad. I've got some testing for top Z distance, paint handle, acrylic marker holder, some paint racks, some other things, airbrush holders, stuff like that. That's all free on Creality Print or Creality Cloud. And they're all free. So I'll put that in the comments. And there you go. But yes, after I get that box done, and the other thing is, because I have it sized to the Creality K2 Plus, which is 350 cubed build area, 350 millimeters cubed, you could go through and slice that in your slicer as well. So let's say, because somebody did ask me about this. So let's bring up Creality Print. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So recent project, and boom. So this is a pretty big one here. Hack says, the paint holder I saw you use is pretty cool, and a water holder for the brush. Yeah, I didn't print that. That is what I ended up buying off a cheap little thing. George says, Come of the RIK has released its own version of the Benchy called Tanky. I'm going to try it soon. Oh, okay. Tanky. Benchy Tanky. Which print was your most useful in recent projects? I would say probably the paint rack that I ended up doing. If we take a look at, let me see. Okay, let's go back here. You can't really see it. Can I do, nope, that's not going to work. Oh, I know what I can do. I would say the paint rack. And I guess what we can end up doing, I'll take a look at this, because I can use this camera. I'll show some light on there. And so that paint rack there, the white one, and that turned out pretty good. So it just ends up moving, and I've got it on a Lazy Susan, but even then, it's got to the point of where you can rotate things around, and that turns out pretty good. So that one works out pretty good. Some other ones, like the paintbrush holder, kind of like this one here. That was really useful. So that's kind of a simple one. I've got a large one like this, and then I've got a smaller one as well. So yeah, those are some pretty good models, turns out. Not bad. And then I was just doing a vent for a hole, and then have a little filter in there, and this will go on the outside, and this will allow me to hook up a 100 millimeter vent hose. So we're kind of playing around with that as well. So yeah, I would say those are pretty good. Those are the good ones. Cone. Axis, so you assembled multiple pieces and not one big one. No, that one ends up for that paint rack. Let me show you. I think I got pictures of it. Let's take a look. So the rotating paint rack, and you can see that it ends up, kind of prints like that. And then you have these cylinder pieces, center pieces that will hold it, and there's a little bit of play, and so you can move them around. And then the whole thing sits on a Lazy Susan. So, yeah. So it works out kind of good. I think it did good. I like it, enjoy it. It works. I have access to the paints. I can move it, turn it around. I'm able to store the paints vertically, see all the colors. Yeah, that works out pretty good. And especially for those Art Deco paints. So like 59 or 60 millimeter tubes or containers, that works out really well. So yeah, I think that was probably the most useful one. But then I also have the airbrush stand. So if we take a look, of course that paint rack, when I get my pegboard in, that'll come in handy. But other useful ones, glue gun holder, paintbrush holder, and then the airbrush stand is pretty good. So yeah, they hold a little shelf thing, really Barney basic stuff in the beginning. But now it get a little bit more complicated as we go. 3D tabletop miniature display, diorama type stand or whatever. So I did some of those. So yeah, good stuff. Something to do. I think Steve took his wife's makeup brush set. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, but with that, it ends up that those brushes, I know people will spend an insane amount of money, especially for dry brushes. I just went to Daiso, and you just go to the makeup aisle and you can get some basically dry brushing brushes, and it was only a few thousand won. So kind of like, let me show you. So instead of having to spend, like these brushes here, you can get these in the makeup stores, and again, something like that. I don't know if I got that at the makeup store or not. But yeah, you can end up finding stuff like this in makeup stores, and you're good to go. So yeah, not bad. If they're good enough for the wife, they're good enough for my miniatures. So yeah. Very nice prints. Thank you. Appreciate that. Sweetest says, I asked my neighbor if she has any old makeup brushes that I can get. Yeah, you can do that. Hack says, I wouldn't have thought they were not specialty brushes. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's, like I said, it was like 3,000 or 4,000 won, which is not much at all. Daiso is kind of like a dollar store. Not really a dollar store, but it's a discount little stuff, and you can find makeup, you can housewares, containers, some art supplies, stationery. It's just kind of an all-around type of store. I think they got Daiso in the UK and some other places as well, but it's big here in Korea. So, and it doesn't cost a lot, so that's kind of nice. So that's what we got going on. Yeah, fun stuff. So we're going to continue on. That miniature carrying box, that'll be, oh, that's what we're going to talk about. The slicing it up. Because I made this for the K2 Plus, which is a 350 cube build area. And so for people that don't have this, say they've got like a 256 cubed, what you can end up doing is you can go through, choose your item, and if we go up top here, you can see cut, and what we can end up doing, let's move that out of the way. We can rotate our little cutter here, and we could cut it, and that's the center. And then we could go over here where we want to add connectors. And what I've found is, let's just make that 5 for the size. And for the little dimensions here, or variance, 0.2 millimeter, which seems to give enough. And then you just go through here, and we could throw in a little connector there. Oh, we want that to be a dowel. So it'll print out a dowel. We could do like, I don't know, 3 of these, 1 at each corner, as long as it just kind of lines up. And we'll put one in that corner, kind of like that, like that. And then you go through, make sure everything's good. We'll do confirm connectors, and then we perform the cut. And then what that'll allow us to do is it'll cut our model in two. And then it'll end up printing the dowels and everything. You can move those out of the way. But with that, you have your holes in your model. And then on this other piece, on that other side, we can end up seeing that it'll have holes on there as well. So you can split up a model and be able to piece it, print it on smaller build areas. And if I wanted to, I could go through and I could split this one as well. So I could kind of go through and do that. And we will turn that like that, 90 degrees. You could do a similar thing like that. Of course, I wouldn't want it to go through that hole, so we could just kind of go something like that. Do the same thing. We could add some connectors on there. Boom. Confirm. Cut. And then we could end up having that as well. So we could make a model smaller, and you could print it out on a smaller build area. So, yeah, that's fun stuff. So anyway, do I want to save? No. So we'll see what happens. Sweetie says, I was thinking about something. Maybe you could make the walls a little thin. Yeah, there is that. So as you can see on this one, the original walls were pretty thick. Those are thick there. And then I ended up kind of thinning these out. Let's see if I can eventually, all of these are all grouped together. And that, the walls there were 10 millimeters. So the thickness of these walls here are 10 from there to there. And that's same thing, 10 up there. So, and then the slots that I put in there, I think I came like 4. So maybe I could thin it out a couple millimeters and redo that. So that would save a little bit of material. And on the top, I could probably drop it to 8. Same thing with the bottom. Something like that. So, I don't know. We'll see. So much stuff we could end up doing. Yeah, Swedish says we could probably pop that at like 8. Yeah. So I tend to go overboard on the items I make. I want them to be strong. I want them to be durable. So, but I think if it did like you were recommending, doing like 4 walls, 5% infill, I think that would be good with the grid. And then with that should be good enough. We could probably drop those walls down to 8. And then half of that would be the slot. The slot digging into the side or cut into the side would be 4. So that way we still have 4. I think it'd work. Yeah. I think that's a good call. Yeah.
We need to go to Crane Bank.
Oh yeah, we do. We have to go to the Crane Bank. And it's almost 10 o'clock. Okay. Alrighty. Anyway, 5 walls, 5%. Yeah, the walls would definitely give us a strength on that. I think that's a good call. We'll have to give that a shot. Anyway, the wife just told me that we got to go to the bank. We got to transfer some money because we got some stuff going on. So we need to go get money, get it exchanged, put it in the Korean bank, all the fun stuff that expats do in countries. So we got to do that. So I'm going to have to cut this. But thank you, Swedish, for all the recommendations. We'll definitely take those into the project. 8 walls. Matter of fact, let me write that down. Eight wall thickness. 5 walls. 5% infill. Grid. Boom. We've got it. We will do that. Anyway, Hack says, have a good one, Steve. Yep. Swedish said he's going to go to sleep. Have a good stream. We'll see you. Have a good one. Thanks for all the recommendations. We'll incorporate those. George says, have a good one, along with everybody else that's watching. Have a great day. Again, it's being retired in Korea, having fun. If you want to contact me, you can. For whatever reason, just say hi or anything like that. You can contact me there at that email address. Swedish says test print, of course. Definitely do that. Easier to find out on a smaller piece than wasting a bunch of filament. I totally agree. So MD, morning. Ned Venom says, have a great day, everybody. Of course. We always got to have a great day. So anyway, the email, coffee, whatever. I drink coffee if you do that. But the very best thing that you could end up doing is liking and subscribing to the channel. That would really help me out. So I would appreciate that. So anyway, with that being said, like Swedish says, we will see you on the next video. Peace. Have a good one, y'all. We'll see you.